The Imagine More Success radio show is the all about you show with successful entrepreneurs and business experts sharing their stories and powerful takeaways while providing you with tips, tools, tactics, and a free weekly gift to help you thrive. Your hosts for the Imagine More Success radio show are the best-selling authors Syndee Hendricks, a certified business consultant, and Thomas Hydes, a certified world-class public speaking coach. Check out the Imagine More Success radio show at imaginemoresuccess.net, because now is the time to realize your dreams and imagine more success.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the Imagine More Success radio show. We're so glad that you could be with us. Today, we're going to be tackling a wonderful topic for anyone who's an entrepreneur or a business owner, or if you have a personal brand that you want to expand your reach. Today, we're going to be deep diving into the concept of writing your own book. The name of today's show is actually, I wrote the book on this. So how you can become the expert who can claim that you have written the book on this. This is going to be a huge topic. Syndee, you have written, I've lost track of the number of books.
Me too, but I think I'm at 13. Lucky 13.
13 plus, yes. 13 plus with more on the way. So you've got tremendous background in writing as well as actually publishing. And I know at first you did some self-publishing, but then you worked with publishers and you've done all sorts of marketing and all sorts of everything that's associated with writing books.
Yes, and that's how I found our guest today. I was speaking on a conference that she was managing and working her magic with what she does. So I'm so excited that Kim is joining us today because, for some people, just getting started to write a book is challenging, and that happened to me too. It took me a year to really get started on that first one. And then once I had my why, that it was important that I finish it, I finished that book in a week.
Beautiful. And like so many things that we do on this program, we're really wanting you to kind of press the easy button. And I know for a lot of people, if you're sitting there thinking about the idea of writing a book, it might seem overwhelming. It might seem like something like, I just would rather not do that. But that's why you want to listen to the whole show today, because not only are you going to figure out why you want to do it and why it's so important, but you're also going to learn some really cool steps to press the easy button onto getting it done so that you can have all the benefits of writing a book without all the headaches of actually getting the book written. So,
well, Thomas, I love that. The easy button. I got to find it for every part of what I do now.
Me too.
Now that I know one of the secrets. And you know what? Kim makes it easy because she's just such a sharp cookie that she just has her handle on all of it.
Oh, absolutely. So today we're going to be introducing our guest. Her name is Kim Eley. She specializes in personal development books and thoughtful children's books. And that's really the mission of her company, KWE Publishing. She likes to pronounce it KWE Publishing. The common thread of both children's books and personal development books is to help people see what's possible and to shift to a more enjoyable, fulfilled life. And as a writing coach and publishing consultant, Kim gives her clients 6 steps. Listen to that, just 6 steps. I thought there was like 600. Just 6 steps to make your book a reality. She's happily married to her BFF, as she likes to call him, and has been for 20 years. She's a speaker and author, and we're so glad to have you here today. Kim, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much, Syndee and Thomas. Appreciate being here.
You're very welcome. Now, does that BFF stand for beefcake?
I will take the 5th. I'm going with best friend forever.
Perfect.
Well, he'd probably like the other, but either way, you're a lucky gal.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
for someone
ahead,
who's
Thomas.
Listening today, Kim, why should someone write a book?
Oh gosh, that is an awesome question. First of all, if you are a entrepreneur, a speaker, a coach, a consultant, writing a book is so important because I like to call it your business card on steroids. It's the best way to market yourself as a credible, believable expert.
Absolutely. So that's I think a really external way of describing or a reason why someone should write a book. For the internal part of why someone should write a book, because it's such a monumental task, what are some of the things that people feel once they actually have taken on the challenge of writing a book?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. And I think for so many people, it starts, I'm going to call it as an itch. People have a message, something that they want to share. And I loved how you described, Syndee, with your first book. It took you a year to get started because sometimes people just don't know how to dive in. With the internal reason and for it is often, especially with personal development books, you're taking your readers on a journey. You have been through an experience or seen or experienced something, and it's like you have a roadmap to help that person to get out of whatever fix they're in. You have had a problem that you solved, and your reader has that problem, and you just have this itch, this burning desire to share it with them so that they can also learn from what you've done.
That's beautiful. That's truly beautiful. And that's, on our radio show, we talk about letting our long roads be your shortcut. So many of us have taken these really long paths to learn things, and then we get the opportunity from vast amounts of experience, all the people we've had on the show, all the experiences that they have had, they distill them down and they make the road to success so much easier, so much shorter, while avoiding so many pitfalls. And that's what I want to talk about today. Let's talk about what are some of the pitfalls that people assume they're going to have in writing their book that don't really show up when they work with you?
Pitfalls that people think they will have. Some of it is time related, and gosh knows, many of us do have incredibly busy schedules, but I think a lot of people think, holy cow, I don't have time to write a book. I think that can be overcome. And gosh, Syndee, you are a shining example of that, having authored 13 plus books, that it's just a matter of time management. One of the things that I bring to the table is experience as having been a project manager. And I think a lot of times people think, oh, well, I have to carve out, 2 hours a day to write. No, you don't. You just have to figure out a reasonable amount of time and just commit to it. That's one pitfall I frequently help people with.
Do you think that a lot of people have this idea that not just about taking a very specific block of time, but that the idea of that they have to start at the beginning of the book and go to the very end of the book
definitely
is an issue as well?
Definitely. And I think there's nothing more daunting than the very first sentence of the very first, paragraph of your book. So you're absolutely spot on, Thomas. A lot of times I'll tell people, come back. You can come back to your introduction or your first chapter. Start where you feel compelled to start. Another pitfall that I see is I always like for writers to know themselves. And I don't know if y'all have heard of the concept of pantsers and plotters.
No, what is that?
Okay. Pantsers are people who fly by the seat of their pants.
Okay.
Well, I have other names for those people.
Oh. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
They're just free form. Let me just jump right into writing. And then plotters are like, you know what? Let me figure out my message. Let me get my outline together and get it straight before I start. And often I find pantsers may jump in too soon and go, holy cow, where am I in this? Or plotters can get too bogged down into the details. So a lot of times I'll kind of help people on either side of the spectrum.
Do you find that for the person who is more of a pantser or plotter, that it really helps to take on some of the attributes, or as an exercise, do things the way the other personality type would, at least for a part of the time or part of the process of writing the book?
Most definitely. It's a mindset shift. I think sometimes with plotters, we can get so in the weeds with, I need this to be perfect before I start, that suddenly it becomes an excuse to, oh, I'm still working on my outline. So having a little, nudge to become, like you're saying, more like a pantser is definitely important. And then sometimes when pantsers get a little bit out of control, it's like, okay, let's back up a little bit and see what we need to accomplish.
Well, what I try to do to solve those issues in my coaching practice is to tell people that the project is like a river. It's very fluid, and you've got to just go with the current, and be able to pivot when you need to, and don't be so serious about, I've got to go this direction right now. And I think that's where people get bogged down with everything, not just with writing.
Oh gosh, you're so right. And Syndee, I love that analogy. You want to be like a river and go with the current. You don't want to dam it up.
Exactly, or you're going to be damned.
Right.
So in addition to being a business card on steroids, let's talk about the credibility that writing a book gives someone. I've heard the phrase that experts, let me make sure I get this right. Mm-hmm. Experts don't make books, books make experts. Mm-hmm. Is that right? So yes. when you become, in your process, when someone writes a book, they become an expert. Tell us more about that.
Oh, exactly. And that's why I'm glad you named this episode. I wrote the book on this. When you do write a book, you've put the thought into it and the research, and you're putting your message into it. And it's a tangible way to show that you are a credible expert on your topic. It also frequently, when people in the media who want to talk to you, like on radio shows or television, they want to talk to someone who's an expert. And so it's proof right there in the pages that you are the expert on it. And plus it gives people lots of material to talk about. Yes,
for sure. And, it makes for great talking points. It's a great way also to get your most important points to your potential clients or to your potential audience.
Yeah.
So that they have a chance to not just kind of surfacially know who you are, but really deep dive into what your thoughts are about the topic and who you are and how you're going to serve them. And also that big word that we all talk about as coaches, the big why. You can really get that across in a book.
Yes, I love that. And Thomas, since I know you do speaking, and you do too, Syndee, I heard you speak. It's also another way, if you are a speaker, if somebody hears you speak and was like, dang, I love that message, I want to learn more, it's the perfect opportunity for them to really get to know you. And, you may only have a half hour or hour time block to speak, but then the book, you have a greater format to really let your readers get to know you.
And when we talk about this type of book, we're really letting you know, hey, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, should I write a book? The answer is not probably yes. It is absolutely yes. Mm-hmm. So if there's any little bit of doubt, the answer is most certainly yes. So we've had some really good conversation with Kim Eley from KWE Publishing. It's KWEPub.com. When we come back, we're actually going to start talking about the processes that you can use to write a book. We're going to get to that point where you can start to learn some of the overall process, and then we're going to start deep diving into some of these amazing shortcuts she's going to be sharing with you. So please stick around to the Imagine More Success radio show. Thank you for joining us today. What a pleasure. We've been talking about how you can write a book so that you can be known as the expert on a very specific topic, which you probably are already expert in and don't even know it. So we've been having a conversation today with Kim Eley. She's from KWE Publishing, KWE Publishing. You find her at kwepub.com. In the first segment, we were really going over the reasons why, with an emphatic yes on you should write a book, whether you have a personal brand, whether you have a business, whether you're a coach, a speaker, or if you're someone who is deciding that you want to have a level of credibility. One thing I want to jump to really quickly, Kim, I actually recommended to someone recently that they write a book about a very specific topic so that they could get a job that they wanted. Was that crazy, or is that decent advice?
No, I think that's decent advice. Because writing a book does establish your credibility and you demonstrate that you're an expert in your topic. I think that's a fantastic way to get your foot in the door.
Cool.
Well, it depends on the topic of the book.
For sure. For sure. So, Kim, for someone, again, who's sitting at home right now, maybe they feel a little overwhelmed, but maybe they're starting to warm up a little bit to the idea of writing their first book. Let's talk about a couple things. First, let's talk about kind of the big process. So there's the writing and publishing. What are the major pieces of taking a book from the beginning to the end?
Absolutely. In the beginning, I like to recommend that people do two things. One is have an outline, and also something I call your strategic plan. And your strategic plan has to do with identifying your intention for your book, your main message, and also who your ideal reader is. And I feel that combined with your outline gives you a really good idea of your destination, so to speak, for your book, where you want to end up. I consider the strategic plan and outline sort of your GPS to get there.
Let me jump in really quickly. So when you say intention, what do you mean by that? What's the intention of the book?
Absolutely. So we have, let's say, for example, a number of books on, I'm going to use beekeeping.
Okay.
If your topic is beekeeping, you can have a number of different intentions for your beekeeping book. You can make your book specifically for novice beekeepers who know nothing about it. You could make your book about beekeepers who live in an urban setting and they want to know how to keep bees in a urban setting versus out in the country. Okay. So kind of having that focus, getting specific about your topic. And I think that may go along with what you were saying, Syndee, about writing a book to go with your job topic. I think you would want to make sure it was something appropriate intention-wise that lines up with your job.
Absolutely. So, that's a really great point. I think a lot of people who start books very often feel like I have to put everything that I know into this one book. Otherwise, it won't be perfect. And really, they forget that they're so far down the road when it comes to knowledge that they don't have to put everything in there that they know, because they have so much more information than the people that they're serving. Do you find that that's...
And a point toward that is a lot of the different authors of our time, of our generation, have written a bazillion books on similar topics, like all of the, the idiot books.
The Idiot's Guides, too. Sure.
Yes. And then who's the other guy that's written like over 100 books? And he does the conferences. I own several of his books, by the way.
John Maxwell? Is that your
Thank you, Dr. John Maxwell. He's written over 100 books, and many of them are on leadership and some, related topics. So if you didn't think there could be 100 books from the same guy on leadership, then there's a perfect example.
Definitely.
So Kim, once someone's kind of gotten their book profile narrowed, what they're looking for, and they've gotten their outline set aside, and then they're also going to be doing kind of project management, right? Which is where you come in to help them figure out when and where they're going to do this.
Absolutely. I like to describe that I wear three main hats. One is definitely the project manager. If you intend to publish, let's say by the end of 2021, you want to identify your date and then work backwards from there to say, okay, when do we need to have our rough draft done, et cetera. The other hat is writing coach. I often will work with people who haven't written anything, and we'll work together chapter by chapter. And then my third hat is the publisher hat. And I started that when I self-published my own book and told people about publishing. And they said, that's great. How do you do that? And I described the steps, and their eyes kind of glazed over and said, you know what? That's great, Kim. What if we paid you to do that for us? And voila, a business was born. So
perfect. So what are the other steps once someone's, say, gotten a good rough draft down after you've helped them kind of do that? Then what's the next step in the process?
I think the most important step in the process after that is the next one, which is editing. You may have heard, and I frequently say, a good editor is worth their weight in gold, because you get with a great editor a blunt idea of how effective your writing has been. A good editor will point out, content wise, like, you know what, you've given us a whole lot of information about this topic, and you sort of left this topic sort of anemic. Let's build that up some. There's also other types of editing besides the content editing, and also proofreading, a huge one, of course. From there, there's also the steps for going forward for publishing, which would include formatting, design and layout, which can include your book cover, and then setting up your account for publishing, and then actually launching.
And then after launching, then there's marketing, and
absolutely,
you can support your book with doing speeches and book signings and all sorts of PR things as well. So I want to jump in very quickly. And if you're listening today, and I know that we talked about why you should write a book in that previous segment, the answer is most certainly yes. Like, you most certainly should do it. There's lots of reasons. It's a business card on steroids, and it turns you into an expert because you've written a book about something. Right now, if you feel like you're a little overwhelmed because this process seems gigantic, I'm going to ask for a little shift from your thinking. Instead of wondering, how am I going to do all this? Maybe you can think like Veronica Romney taught me just last week. Ask the question, who's going to help me do all of this? Because when it comes to these giant tasks like this, even I'm sitting here thinking, good Lord, this sounds like so much. But I also know that when you get someone involved who has already done it, who has the passion, the knowledge, the expertise, the willingness to go there and take care of these things for you, it can happen so much faster than you think.
Mm. Well, and for those people, Thomas, there's always ghostwriting, which I know that Kim does.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. So first off, tell us, what exactly is ghostwriting?
Absolutely. Ghostwriting is when a writer comes in and writes as though they are the other person. And I think most famously, many celebrities and political figures will have a ghostwriter. It can not only save that person time by having someone else do the heavy lifting, so to speak, with the writing. It also helps if somebody's, if writing isn't their favorite thing, or if they just simply would really like to have that support. I love ghostwriting. It's part art and part science to emulate someone's voice and make sure you capture their authentic voice in their writing.
And I will say this as well. Ghostwriting is one of those topics that for a lot of people, they might feel like it's quote unquote cheating, but it really isn't cheating. It is literally turning over something that is extraordinarily important to you that can seem completely overwhelming. It's literally just turning it over to an expert. It's no different than if you need to have your oil changed and you're not comfortable doing your own oil, you'll go to a place and have your oil changed. It's really no different than that. It can be just as authentic, especially when you have a chance to go back and read it, edit it, and then give your ideas. And also in the process of ghostwriting, doesn't the ghostwriter spend time with the person who is going to be the person receiving the book or for whom they're writing the book, so they understand their voice completely?
Absolutely. That's a crucial part of it. And that's why, as you described so well, it's not cheating. Really, you are taking the words, the information. Frequently when I work with my ghostwriting clients, I'll ask them not only to spend time with me doing interviews, but also share with me things that they've written. Sometimes they'll share webinars or presentations that they've given. I also kind of do my homework by reading whatever I can from what they've written. And so much of it too is, we hear this so much, branding, making sure that it's in someone's authentic voice, and also that the message, intention, and ideal reader is in sync with that person's brand for whom you're ghostwriting.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about identifying the reader for someone who is the person in business. Do you have a process for how they can kind of flesh out who that ideal reader is?
Absolutely. What we'll do is start talking about the typical client that the person will have. How would you describe him or her? If you are a professional speaker, what sorts of groups do you frequently speak with? We'll start with that. If somebody's just getting started, we'll take a different tack and say, okay, who do you want to work with? And have some characteristics of that person. One thing I like to share, because so frequently when people start, they're like, Kim, I want everyone to buy my book. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course. But the more specific you can get with identifying who your ideal reader is, the more you resonate with that specific, group of, I'll call them your raving fans, who are like, oh snap, Syndee, I am loving what she is speaking about, and I want more of that in her book.
Sweet. And this is the idea too, that when you're writing for that single person, in that voice that is specifically to a single person, it doesn't really mean that you're excluding other people. Other people still hear the message and they understand the message, but the person whom you're most in alignment with, or the person that is most likely to work with you or has worked with you in the past, will most certainly understand exactly what you're saying and get the importance of it. And that's when you make a really powerful connection to your readers, who will eventually become your clients.
Yes, well said.
Well, we have had a really wonderful conversation here with Kim Eley. We're going to continue the conversation when we come back. We've already touched on some really cool topics. We've talked about why you should write a book if you own a business, have a personal brand, or even if you're someone who's in corporate America and are looking for your next job. It's a really great idea. We talked through some of the wonderful processes, including how to actually write the book, how then you go about publishing the book, and then from there launching and marketing your book. We're going to continue that conversation as well. And if you'd like to go back and listen to some past episodes of the Imagine More Success radio show, go to imaginemoresuccess.net, where every single week there's a great weekly gift. Please stay tuned. You're back on the Imagine More Success radio show. Thank you so much for joining us. We are continuing our conversation today about why you should write a book so that you can become the I wrote the book on that, or I wrote the book on this expert. We've been having a great conversation today with Kim Eley, who's from KWE Publishing. And we want to talk a little bit in this segment about some more of the how-tos, I guess. So a lot of times when we have conversations like this, when we're talking about doing something, especially something which can seem like an overwhelming task, and I want to share a quick story. There's this personal development conference years ago, about 5 years ago. There were 77 people in the group, and they asked how many people here would like to write a book, and I want to say every single person raised their hand. Then the next question, of course, was how many people have written a book? I think there were 2 people. 2 people had written. So the desire is there, right? But so many people, like we're saying, really don't know where to start. And that's where instead of asking the question of how I'm going to do something, instead asking the question of who is going to help me do this, or who is going to facilitate this for me, I think really makes a big difference. Mm-hmm. What are some of the assets that are kind of hidden that these new authors have that they're not really aware that they have?
Ooh, that is such a good question. I think sometimes people don't realize that they already have content they can use. Frequently, I will meet with new book authors, but they have already had a blog that they've written or online articles that they've written. And one way to get started is either to use the articles that you have and compile them into an anthology to share. Or if you already have a great topic, say in a blog, and you realize, wow, there's more juice in this topic. Let's dive deeper. Frequently, you can use what you've already written as a great launch pad for your book.
You know, that is such a good answer, Kim. I would like to expand on it if I could, for the listeners to understand what they have. And my business coach is also intuitive as I am. And I was trying to get my first book written, and she goes, "No, Syndee, you're going to have a stack of books." And I said, "What?" And I thought, and I said, I don't know what I'd write about. And so after our meeting, I started thinking about what I could write about, and I haven't stopped since.
Excellent.
So for all you authors out there that think that you don't have anything to say, you got to dig a little deeper. And I really think some of the people, and you can tell me what you think about this, Kim, is that they have a fear of what people will think when you've written it, and that you might feel like you've failed in writing your book to attract people who find what you have to say interesting.
You are absolutely right, Syndee. I think fear holds many people back. I often have people who will share, well, I want to write about this, especially with personal development, because, you know, it's personal topics. People will say, well, I'd like to write about this, but what will my family think? Or what will the, so-and-so think? And it does. It's definitely something that can be overcome. To anybody who's thinking about writing and that is holding them back, I often will say, you can tell your authentic truth without revealing everything in the kitchen sink, meaning you can speak in your authentic voice and share your authentic experiences, get vulnerable, but you don't have to tell everybody every gory detail, if that makes sense.
It doesn't have to be TMI. Is what
exactly. Well, and here's what I say. Who are those people? Their opinion is not more important than your opinion, no matter if they're family or otherwise. And unless, it's going to cost you in big ways, it shouldn't be that important.
I love that, Syndee. And yes, having the confidence to say, I have this message and I'm going to act on it by sharing it, Yeah, I think that's a huge step. I think it's something we should be practicing every day. I think it just feels more daunting to some people when it's in the written form.
And it's coming out of the author's closet.
Yes, yes. That's a great way to put it.
Because everybody has at least one book inside.
I truly believe so. I truly believe so.
So, Kim, you've talked a little bit about the strategic plan for books, like how you go about planning your book, and how there's a very specific process here. This is a process that's very well known, that has some flexibility to it, but you really know how to get somebody from just the idea of a book to published and marketed book, right? That's something you've done multiple times.
Yes.
So, to talk about some of the other tools that you recommend, there's a tool you call Write It, Then Read It Out Loud. Walk us through what that is.
Oh, absolutely. Whenever you write something, there's some real power in reading it out loud, even if that's not your intention for the book to eventually become a presentation. Something about hearing your writing out loud enables you to focus on it in a different way than you can when you're just silently reading to yourself. It's one of the techniques I use when I work with many authors. I'll say, okay, let's read this together. Read this chapter for me. And it's amazing how many things that we catch, intonations, intentions, that could be misconstrued, and you wouldn't notice it until you actually hear it yourself.
That is so interesting, Kim, because when I read my first book after I wrote it, and I had the book and I started reading it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did I write that?
I've heard a lot of people say that.
I know. It's like, where did that come from?
I love that. And it can sound like, wow, who said that? Dang, that was me. Which is a really fun feeling. But I feel when we get into the creative flow and we really tap into, I call it the authentic, when we tap into our authentic voice, there's just something about that does sound sometimes after the fact almost foreign to us. It's kind of cool the way creativity works. It's always really pretty magical to me.
It really is.
For sure.
So what do you do with the person who can't tap into their creativity, and you're reading the first chapter or two and it's just like a big block that fell to the bottom of the ocean? What do you do for them?
Oh gosh. Well, I should disclose that before I work with anybody, I always read a sample of their writing. So I do have a little bit of insight. So I do make sure that I feel like they have something that they can say, or that it resonates with me. But yeah, if somebody is kind of hitting a brick wall or kind of sinking fast, what we'll do is do a little bit of I call it brain work. One thing I love to do to help people sort of spur on their ideas is, and I wish I had a more elegant name for it, but I call it a brain dump. And basically what you do is take all the ideas that are floating around in your head. And sometimes we have to do a brain dump before the writing brain dump, meaning sometimes we have all this stuff in our heads like, I need to pick up the dry cleaning, and holy cow, Susie's birthday's next week. Sometimes we just have to do a brain dump to get all the mundane things out of our heads, and then do a writing brain dump where you think about, again, I'm going to pick on beekeeping. What is it about beekeeping that I really want to share? Well, it's about the environment, or it's about flowers, it's about food, just sort of all the different ideas in your head that are related to the topic that you want to write. And then which ones really resonate with you? I often encourage my writers to take a little break, take a walk around the block, and come back and go, okay, circle the ones that really resonate with you, and then pursue those.
Okay, Kim, so I have a verbiage for you for that. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Brain triage.
Brain triage. Syndee, you're brilliant. I love it. So much more elegant.
Yeah.
For sure. I love it. So for the person that maybe is at that point where they feel like there are too many kind of mundane tasks, is there a certain time of day that you recommend that people write, or how they go about carving out the time to write? What are some of the ways that you recommend that?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. And I often will hear from people, oh, make sure that you write first thing in the morning. And for some people, that is the right time of day. One thing I do when I work with my clients is to figure out what timing works best for them. For some people, it is first thing in the morning before, anybody else in the house is awake. For some people, it's lunchtime. They might be able to just sort of step away for a minute and, and for a half hour or whatever for their lunch break and write. For some people, it's in the evening. It depends on your schedule. I had a wonderful woman with whom I worked, and oh my gosh, this lady travels, I want to say close to 300 days a year.
Wow.
That made it a challenge. But what we would do, and I don't do this for all my clients, but for her, we would have like a special, devoted day to writing. We had fun, and she was a good cook too, by the way. So she would have me over and she would fix a big spread. We would eat, we would talk, we would knock out a bunch of chapters, and that worked for her. So I always try to make it specific to each client. And
don't forget the deadline writers.
Yes. And I'm going to tell y'all a secret. I'm glad you brought that up, Syndee. One thing I do and I picked up this trick when I was a IT project manager, is sometimes I'll have a fake deadline, depending on the client.
Brilliant.
Because I just know they're going to procrastinate. And so I'm like, okay, this is due July 1st. And then they're freaking out on, June 30th. And I'm like, guess what? We have 30 more days. But then their feet are held to the fire for sure.
Mm-hmm. I worked like that for years in corporate America.
You did?
Had to. You don't tell the CEO or president that the work's not done yet.
I love it.
Kim, you had another thing that's one of your tools that you utilize called the empowerment card. Could you tell us what that is?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I find so frequently when people are ready to start that what they have is a lack of confidence. And so many people will tell me, well, Kim, I want to write a book, but I'm not a writer. So I invented the empowerment card to conquer this bad self-declaration. So what I do is I have everybody take out an index card. At the top of the card, I have them write, I am a writer. At the bottom, I have them write, my words have power. On one side of the card, I have them write the name of the project or the book that they're working on. And on the other side, I have them write the emotional state that they're going to feel when they have completed that project.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And
that sounds like your language, Thomas.
Right.
And I make everybody say an oath. And I have them take the oath to say, I am a writer. My words have power. And then I have them put it somewhere where they can always see it when they need that little kick in the pants.
Oh, Kim, I love that. We're going to continue the conversation with Kim Eley when we come back. And if you are ready to jumpstart your business, make more money, find more clients, reach out to the people that need to be a part of your business and who need your services and products, you're definitely going to want to write a book. So do stick around. When we come back in the next segment, we're going to get a fantastic free gift from Kim Eley to help you become the author you want to be. So please stay tuned. Thanks for sticking around with the Imagine More Success radio show, because we've got a wonderful free gift for you in this segment from Kim Eley, who is the owner and founder of KWE Publishing, KWE Publishing at kwepub.com. She specializes in personal development books and thoughtful children's books, and that's something we're going to be talking about a little bit in this segment as well. Syndee, we've been talking to you about the numerous books that you've written, and I always laugh when you tell the story about your first book being written in a week, because it seems almost fantastical, and then at the same time, I know your level of productivity and focus, and I'd almost be surprised if your first book wasn't written in a week. But this is, it's one of those things where, I think once you get started, things start to accelerate. Is that true, Kim? Is that what you found?
I think so too. Yes. Once you kind of find your, I guess I'll call it sea legs, then yes, it gets much easier.
I heard an interview years ago with, I think it was Tim Ferriss and someone else, and he was talking about his writing style, and he said that he would write whatever kind of came to mind and then focus on kind of putting it in the right place later. He always went with what was in flow. He talked about kind of keeping a nice writing flow. Is that a way that some people write? Is that more common than not?
I think so. I think once you get in that creative flow, it's important to keep it rolling. And yes, absolutely. I think that goes along with having a really good editor. Sometimes you've got all the, I'm going to call it pieces, parts out in front of you, your topics, and it's just a matter of rearranging them. Frequently when I work with clients, what we'll do is take all their own writing and we'll just rearrange some paragraphs and sentences so that it flows better.
Mm. One thing I want to speak to also is kind of, we talked a little bit about transformation that people experience once they've actually written the book, but the feeling of accomplishment that someone has after they take on what seemed like such an insurmountable task to begin with is incredible. What sort of dynamic changes do you see in your authors once they've gone through this entire process?
Oh gosh. One of my favorite things to see is how much more in tune they are with their own message. I frequently will work with clients. I worked with a coach recently, and we went through her work, and I asked a lot of, blunt questions. I'm like, well, what does this mean? And how are you explaining this exactly? And I don't understand. Can you rephrase this? And she said she gained such a huge amount of insight on her own work and became even more clear and focused as a result of working on her book.
Kim, that is such a good point, because so many of us think because we understand something intricately that everybody else does too, and that is so not true. And when people write, it's, sometimes we think that, oh, that's too much information and nobody wants the basics, but that's really not true. People want the basics. They want to know exactly how something is.
Exactly. I find it interesting too, because sometimes we don't recognize that we're speaking to a global audience, and what seems quote unquote normal to me as an American might be completely foreign if I'm from a different country or a different culture.
That is so true. In fact, I was working with a woman who wrote a chapter in one of my compilation books, and she totally left out the whole chapter on her country and the differences. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be the most important part of the whole book.
Yes.
I think you know who I'm talking about.
I think so.
And you know what? It was the absolute most interesting part of the book. But, when you don't see it for yourself because it's right in front of you, then it takes another person, which is why it's great to have an editor or a book coach to help you see what's most important.
Most definitely.
And you do that so well. So there you have it.
So Kim, what else is possible for people once they get their book out there and then they start, they've gone through a launch and people are buying their book and reading it and connecting with it? What kind of, what usually happens then?
Oh gosh, there's a number of things. It's been fun to see a number of my clients connect with people in book clubs to, further introduce their book, including networking book clubs. I've seen several networking book clubs, which exposes you to other people in similar businesses. I've also seen people to continue, well, of course, do, speaking presentations and things like that, but even have like webinars or trainings that are based on their books. It's wonderful to be able to repurpose that content and share it in different ways. I think all of us learn in different ways, and that's another reason why I really love audiobooks and also webinars that are based on books, because some of us are visual or audible audio listeners.
Auditory, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
So I think that's helpful too. I've worked with a wonderful lady who's helped create audiobooks of a couple of my clients' works, and that's just reaching a whole new audience. It's great.
Kim, something else that you offer that maybe, I don't know if they're possible right now, but something that I think sounds incredible, I've actually never done, but we'll probably be doing one very soon, Syndee, is
Yes.
a writing retreat. So
Yes.
let's talk about that.
Oh my goodness. So I love a great writing retreat, especially with beginner writers who are, as we talked about before, and you had mentioned, Syndee, have that fear of writing, or they don't feel confident. Getting together, having a long weekend, kind of an intimate setting. Everybody's beginner writers. Everybody's kind of feeling like they're at the same point, and having, focused workshops to enable them to, work on the areas that they're concerned about. Oh my goodness, I have this outline, but how do I go from the outline to doing the book? Different specific topics. And what I like to do in the retreats is mix in some one-on-one meeting time along with group meetings and also the workshops. There's nothing like having a community of writers get together, because especially if you're in the beginning stages, gosh, it's really nice to have somebody to commiserate with and go, you know what, I'm just feeling stuck. And they're like, me too, and they'll be like, oh, well, share with me. You get this great, melding of minds and support. I've seen some amazing stuff happen.
And collective fear.
Yes.
Well, I think another great thing too is the idea of having a retreat. For so many people, having a little getaway right now would be just absolutely incredible. And then to do it in such a way that for some people that are complete workaholics, having a retreat while simultaneously getting a book done sounds fantastic, right? It's sounds like you're being very productive while also having a great time.
Most definitely. And there is something about changing your environment, don't we know, from the year of COVID, that we missed out on for a long time. Having that change of environment can spur on a lot of creativity, because you are seeing things in a new way when you're in a new environment.
Cool. Kim, what about children's books? I know that there's so much desire from so many people to write a children's book. Tell us a little bit about what's the magic of writing a children's book.
Oh gosh, the magic. I absolutely love collaborating with children's book authors. Specifically, I've been working with children's book authors who have a topic or theme or idea they want to share about. Food allergies, late onset hearing loss, some topics like that. And the fun part about it is writing children's books, and I think many people don't realize this, is actually more challenging sometimes than writing a longer format, because you have to be very specific. You are using generally fewer words and more illustrations. You get to be a lot more specific about the word choices that you're using. And you really have to put yourself in the mind of, if your ideal reader is indeed a child, what is going to spark their curiosity? So I think it's so magical because you get to think like a child again.
Yeah, for some of us, that's not much of a stretch.
No, it isn't.
Which is great. Kim, you have a really great, wonderful free gift for the listeners today. Please take a moment and share it with them, please.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I love to offer to y'all an hour of free coaching. If you would like to reach out to me on kwepub.com and schedule some time with me, I would be glad to spend an hour listening to your book idea, talking about what you're interested in doing, and answering any questions that you have.
What a fantastic offer, Kim.
Fantastic. And that's really incredible.
Thank you. I'm excited. I love talking with authors. And me.
And how many of those gifts do you have to give away, Kim?
Oh, I have 5.
Okay, great.
Fantastic. So they'll go to kwepub.com. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. Fantastic.
And so what's your favorite book that you've published besides your own?
Oh gosh. Oh no.
Don't put her on the spot like that, Syndee.
I know.
Hey, she thinks on her feet.
You know what? I'm going to say the first book because I was able to fulfill a dream, and sadly she's no longer with us. Shirley T. Burke was my very first client. And she took a chance on me. She was a life coach, and she touched so many people's lives. And I was able to fulfill that legacy for her before she left us.
What a great choice.
Thank you.
That's really powerful. That's something I never really thought about when we're talking about book publishing. But yeah, as a part of leaving a legacy for yourself and as a gift to other people, I know that I've read plenty of books from people who have passed on that made tremendous impact in my life. And what an amazing gift to give to the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Kim, if you were to give one piece of advice or one challenge to the listener today, what would it be?
It would be do it. Don't wait. Don't say, someday I'm going to write a book. No, your day is now. If you're looking for a sign, this is your sign. Do it. Write your book.
Beautiful. I think that's a wonderful challenge. Today is the day. So we want to thank you so much for joining us, Kim. It was a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Of course. To know more about Kim Eley and to take advantage of her amazing free gift, go to kwepub.com so that you can reach out to her for a free hour of coaching. And if you'd like to listen to some past episodes of the Imagine More Success radio show, where you can get an amazing weekly gift from each and every episode, just go to imaginemoresuccess.net, and you can connect with experts in so many different topics that will assist you with your business. We want to thank you so much for joining us today. We want to encourage you to take that first big step and start your book and create your pathway to deep connection with potential clients, as well as with the people that are most important to you, as well as create a legacy for yourself. So start today, start with your book. We also want to encourage you to go to findhiddenmoney.com if you want to learn more about how Syndee and I can help you in your business to grow your business, to find new revenue streams for you, and to help grow your business. Go to findhiddenmoney.com. And we want to thank you so very much for sticking with us and always being supportive listeners. And we always want to remind you of one very important thing, and that is to realize your dreams and to imagine more success.